Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebiki.
And I'm Choma Okoye.
In a bit, we'll be going to our newspapers to see all that we have for you this morning, and right after that, in a jiffy would be our main conversation also for today. So we'll get everything produced for you. Please do well to be part of our community. Have a say in what we say. You can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com, and also do like, comment respectfully, that is, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV S7. With us to discuss this, all that we have for you, yes, on our newspaper headlines and possibly our main conversation, joining us virtually from Saitama in Japan, John Akirele. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, John.
Morning, thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much for your time. And with us in the studios, Cyril Abaku, journalist and public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning,
Cyril.
Cyril.
Yes. All right, so quickly, let's kickstart our newspaper reviews today. Interestingly, with what is making trends all across the traditional and the new media, and it's on the rift between the Verydarkman and the cross-dresser Bobrisky. And of course, we have it that the Verydarkman, the controversial activist, has responded to social media celebrity Bobrisky after receiving 1 billion naira lawsuit threat for alleged defamation. Earlier on Sunday, Bobrisky's legal team issued a document accusing Verydarkman of releasing an AI-generated recording aimed at damaging his reputation. The document demanded a retraction and an apology within 24 hours. John, I can really allow to ask you. I know it's a different story in where you are, where of course the LGBTQ is not really that pungent like it is right here in Nigeria. But let's talk about the controversy: AI generated, non-AI generated. Just give us what you think about this issue and the rift.
All right. Quickly, let's look at these issues holistically and let's use our own common sense to just dissect this issue. So I've listened to the audio of Bobrisky that was played by Verydarkman VDM. So in the audio, when you talk about AI, can AI speak Yoruba? So these are questions that we should ask ourselves. AI is not our own thing, okay? It's coming from the Western world. And so there are some indigenous languages that are not in AI, and Yoruba is not one of them. Our own physical pidgin and slang is not there. And so there are some things that common sense will tell you that this is not AI generated, voice. Listen to the voice, listen to the reverberation, listen to the intonation. It gives you some nativeness in the sound that you are hearing as to the one that's generated online. Now that being said, the issue now is between Verydarkman, Bobrisky, and the Falanos. The Falanos have been a very revered revered family, and that name is also a very huge name in Nigeria as it's concerned. And so for me, I feel that they are only reacting to a dent on the name that they also dare to their heart. For me personally also, I don't joke with my name. And anything that will bring a dent to my name, I would fight to my last breath. Why? Because it took me years to build a name that I have now. Okay? On that note also, can we also look at the issue that Verydarkman is pointing out? This issue, one, that she was not within the correctional facility to serve a jail term. Is that a truth or is a fallacy? Now, who are those who actually orchestrated this thing? So, for me, there are so many issues in one. So let's just take these issues one after the other and get to the message that Verydarkman is trying to point out. Even though two wrongs can never make a right, I will not say that Verydarkman is good for him, to defame the Falanos. At the same time, what Verydarkman is saying, out of all the madness, there is a point of light in that issue. And that is what I want us to not sweep under the carpet, to look at those issues. It shows that corruption in the correctional facility is still there, and that needs to be purged out. That being said, as to Bobrisky, in a mail called a cross-dresser, and she has shown tendency of being a gay person. Now, according according to our own law, one of our laws says about such acts. And so for me, it shows that Nigeria is such a country that you ask yourself, that are we really thinking straight in this country? A country where there's no refinery, there's crude oil. Now there's crude oil, there's no refinery. Now you have refinery, there's no crude oil. And so for this, it shows to you that Nigeria is not a country that the more you try to understand, the less you understand the country. So this is just my own take on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Cyril Obako, this recent development started last week, and the tone it is taking at this point, is this standing as a distraction for the government and the correctional centers to stand up to their failures and some of the corruption going on there? Because the tone this particular issue is taking, it is now moved from the EFCC, and it's moved from them to Bobrisky, Verydarkman, and Falana, because these are now the triangle we're looking at this point.
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, I can't put anything past government. Essentially, especially a government that is very deep into politics and the workings of statecraft. You can't put anything past it. Any party that comes to power by propaganda that is very keen on perception engineering, you can't put anything past it. We saw Hitler, we saw Stalin, we saw Chairman Mao, and we've seen him again and again. Verydarkman, if you even examine the psychology of Verydarkman, how it only came to the limelight. We knew him before.
Yeah.
We knew him 5 years ago. We knew him 2 years ago. We had in the coffee. Suddenly, and then people who try to raise extreme issues, who try to unearth facts people didn't know before. There's a place it's coming from. In investigative journalism, typically people in the government are leaking. There's no damage to it, except there's spirit. And so the way government is responding to the issue is very laughable. Now, this is the last thing I was that Bobrisky has sued Verydarkman one before, like alleging that the voice, that the audio was
AI generated,
was faked. Then yesterday, Verydarkman now countersued Bobrisky for 1 billion and said that he wants to make a gain of 20 naira out of it, and saying that all those who are involved in this matter, look, frankly speaking, we shouldn't be a realm where gossip becomes a matter of important public conversation. It shouldn't be, sincerely speaking, because there's no civilization in this. But this is the path we're taking. This is on the eve of Nigeria's independence celebration. Look at what we're talking about. But this is what is on people's lips. It is a distraction. It is a distraction, right? It is also some sort of detraction. But we talk about it because it is what is in public domain. Now, see what government should have done. Why I said was laughing with everything that they have done before now. If you honestly and frankly wanted to deal with this issue, Fisa Yoshiro, so 2019 came up with an expose because he committed a crime, in quote, was taken to prison, and saw what was going on there. Then did a story on what he saw. The fact that a journalist of Shirombo standing went to prison and people couldn't even tell that this was one of the nation's finest journalists. You know what I mean? That Shirombo went to prison. At the risk of being immodest, I have been to the airport before, and when I gave them my details to check in, the lady who was at the counter said, "Oh, that they misspelled your name. I've not met her from anywhere. They misspelled your name." So I had to look at my own ticket and my boarding pass and say, "Okay." So she, how did she get to know that? I've not done before. Sometimes I need to walk into the airport and people. So sometimes I also have to play along and say, so that I know the buyers and person. I don't know you. I've seen it in taxi. I've seen it on bus. I've seen it everywhere. How can we not know Shirombo? He went to prison and they didn't know him. Okay, let's even leave that. Then he came out with the story. Every serious government, I count them as non-government because they're not there. But Tinubu and this young man, Mr. Tunjojo, is a awesome guy. You know the thing. Why didn't he begin his term with reforms to some of the things that Shirombo already revealed? He cannot be said to be someone who doesn't know what's going on. It was when, and then secondly, when Bobrisky wasn't sleeping in the cell, did all the public that Bobrisky's issue raised, they didn't want to Bobrisky. He slept outside of cell, and he also didn't know. I don't know idea of them. So the minister didn't know. Intelligence. Let me tell you this: even in prison, the state has intelligence people there in the cells. They know what's going on there. So how come they didn't know that Bobrisky was not sleeping in the cell? Then the matter brought into the open. The minister is firing. He didn't sack the head of the prison service. You are firing people who receive orders to do what they did. Isn't that enough? People, the loafers, the middlemen, they usually receive. Look, there are some risks people don't take, understanding the gravity of it. There are some risks people don't take. When Fela was sent to prison and the news said it was by Ononuga, I think, Babonyo, Jude and Co. When they also they are to create a Ikoyi prison, I think they were in the same cell. That's when they interviewed him from. That, but a lot of them who now was young times. They were packaged and put into the same cell with Fela, so they had to interview him there. What I'm saying is that they cannot go if government said that they totally didn't know what happened in the cell, and that they too came to know when we too came to know, then excuse me, what gives you the right to be government over me? Because you ought to know what I don't know outside of me. There's a lot that comes to us as news that does not come to government as news, because they always would have known ahead of time. But bringing matter back home now, where are we? Two fighting. You sue me, I sue you back. Tomorrow we're waiting to see the next chapter of the drama, because that's what we're now being produced to be watching. You go on Instagram. I'm not a gossip hunter, but unfortunately, this is what is on the front burner, and you cannot just look at it and say, "I won't talk about it," because it affects us. How this matter is investigated or something under the carpet. Well, you see, let me even bring this on before I wrap on it. Ideally, if this were America, for example, I want to think that the FBI by now would have said they've seen the audio and they're investigating it. Because you don't always have to report to police for them to do their work. They have been set up to do that work already. Why is the police, DSS, or anybody not even checking that audio to verify it? So when they allow this things fester, it tells you that maybe somebody there is somewhere who is benefiting from this Verydarkman drama. If it's a purpose of diverting attention from the real issues, frankly speaking, didn't this it happen when August protest was to happen? The next Bibi Naja said that they were going to. I'm not a fan. I don't know
abruptly,
but the news stopped me because I read or I got to know the story when they wrote and said that Bibi Naja was being brought up much earlier. These are distracting. It was how the citizens ruled Rome and kept the empire going. They actually did a very quiet and fought and killed themselves. It was an moment for the plebeians. So this same thing, when we see that now, civilization is the same. It's the same jacket in every generation. There's the king, there are the jesters, there are the commoners, there's the ruling class. So and then they all play on this stage, So what this whole Verydarkman drama, I find it, and excuse me, he takes on some of the. So, they might understand his job description very well.
Yeah, very well, very well. Most important the way he went around daring the EFCC. He said that if EFCC must come for him, they should ensure that they have the first class ticket for him. They should ensure that they get a 5-star hotel for him, and all, of course, in all of this, EFCC is not even doing anything about it, and it's crazy.
Let me tell you that. Before he took on Jeremiah for fame.
Yes, yeah.
About candle,
miracle. Yes.
Before then, I don't know who you are taking on.
There are lots of a plethora of people here.
He takes on these people who are sort of high up there, but not so high up.
Not very top.
If he can bring EFCC into his mess, it means even the EFCC has been recalibrated to be a lightweight or no-weight entity. Because if you look at the people that he engages people that are not so. He's a middle of the engager.
Yeah.
That's what he does. Bobrisky, yes, people will talk about that. AFC, people will talk about that. And so he then Fufu is a religious person. He's not really a policy. He's just so he knows who he's taking up. He's doing a good job, I have to say.
All right. Well, while we, of course, promise to bring to you, developing stories on that particular matter, let's get to a Blueprint newspaper, the debut here on Enterprise Television. And the big story here is the federal government hands over 64 CNG buses to NLC, TUC, and NANS. And the writer here says to distribute 2,000 CNG tricycles to youth, and it's a promise. it's promise kept, says Information Minister.
Yeah, on the top strip of the Blueprint newspaper, NIMET predicts 3-day thunderstorm nationwide from Monday.
And also, Dangote Cement lifts SMEs in Nigeria.
Okay, moving on, Adelabo says most Nigerians enjoy 20-hour daily power supply. Details are on page 2.
And also on the very bottom of the same newspaper, Obasanjo behind my impeachment as Governor Ladoja opens up 18 years after.
Okay, looking at the right-hand side of the Blueprint newspaper on Constitution Review, senators unite on local government autonomy, differ on state police.
All right, Cyril Abako, let's take on two very important stories here. The big story here is federal government hands over 64 CNG buses to NLC, TUC, and NANS. Could this be a largesse? Because these tripods are it's very key to the sector. Every sector is connected in one way or another to the NLC, to the TUC, and NANS. So can we call this sort of a largesse?
Henry, have you ever had a Marxist, a Marxist to you? Like Marxist talking socialism, communism. They will describe paragraphs to you. They will explain how the paradigms will work, how things are going to be, and how some people are the enemy of the people. It's all in that. It's all in that. We've tried. Where I'm going is that when you read the headline, finally about NYC, TUC, it looks like okay, final government is doing something that, but they are not. They are not.
So what you're saying, they've not distributed the 64 CNG?
It has happened before now. Wasn't that Jonathan Buhari? Did it come to anything? I suspect that there's somebody somewhere, maybe in Asoro, somebody that's been in employment for the past 30 years, that just tells every government how to do the same things, the same ways, and achieve nothing at the end of it. Otherwise, I don't know. Hold on. The people who are in need of the bosses, and I'm putting this in quote, in parentheses, the bosses, are not the labor unions. If we consider this bosses to be a solution to a crisis, you need people who are able to acquire these bosses, put them on the road for profit, and because of the risk we've taken, sure that
it works.
It works. What is the NSRTC going to do? The former ones they gave them that shop, what have they done with them? Why don't we like to sit back and do an audit of these things? Why is the president giving them bosses? The last one, what did they do? And it was positive. And it was positive that I give. What did they do with them?
And now talking about the buses they were given, it is one thing for them to say they've given them the buses. It's another for the buses to actually be delivered and to do its due diligence for why it was actually given.
Okay. I'm glad you went there. When I was in my 300 level, we were introduced to this semiology, semiotics, and semantics. And the lecturer said, a promise cannot be said to be a promise. Unless when they promise, and I think they promise and the promisee are in agreement that this is what they both want together. So if you promise me a car, I should also be in need of a car. Otherwise it becomes just anything else other than that. So government fulfilling promise. I don't know where Nigerians and government agreed, because ostensibly they are giving those buses. The end product is that Nigerians should be relieved. When did they agree with them that we wanted those buses? When was the social agreement? Have they bothered to think how we've been surviving for the past 1 year and some months without these buses? And what are the buses going to do? It may take us another 2 years for us to even feel the impact and know that now CNG has been gone. So what is the local cars, the infrastructure, that the way people are having? Why the buses? Why don't we have a spree of investors into CNG filling stations?
Yeah, very well.
That's
where it should start from.
Why is there not everybody going like that in pen? Okay, I have a, why didn't there a spree of people getting license to open CNG filling stations? Why? The people who put their money down in the oil sector that eventually couldn't continue because of oil theft. Why are they not immediately putting? Why are they not shifting ground immediately? Look, you see, the thing is this: propaganda is a prop, right? But the truth also travels fast. If it is put on the right road, which right will lead to go, because if CNG buses are now working, we would have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
That in a push. But it's not there. Infrastructure is not there. The marketing of it is not there. Then what's the word now? The incentivization that to drive investment is not there. If anywhere businessmen are not willing to invest,
Which means it's not
So check if people are not willing to put money down. Why should we be eager to that spend comments? And this is government saying.
All right. So let's
should come in to say we've received this budget.
All right, so let's just before we leave the Blueprint newspaper, let's talk about should we call this a commendation? That's your take actually. Most Nigerians enjoy 20 hours of daily power supply. I'm a witness to that. At least I can give testimonial to that. I'm on band A and I get more than 20 hours of power every day. I don't need generators any longer. So I'm not talking about fixing my generators, buying fuel for the generator, and so on and so forth. So my concentration right now is ensuring that at least I can buy the kilowatts that would help me. So don't you think that is a good enough accommodation for the government, and hope that passes around?
He said, did you serve Nigerians and enjoying 20%?
Yeah, 20%
of Nigerians.
No,
not 20%.
So
It's most Nigerians.
So on a scale of 1 to 100, at least 50 to 70% should.
Is again, this is one thing that I think we ought to critically assess and investigate for the following reasons. One is the fact that when we say most, we are talking because I went around Lagos a bit yesterday and I still got a place where there was no light. Frankly speaking, I went around Lagos. I mean, yesterday I was on the road. There are people who don't have light. People they still never get light. Okay, one. Number two is what they have done. We need to do a thorough back-end audit of this power sector. The same light that they said we could not have, that we needed millions of dollars to invest to get light. Now that they have put exorbitant costs on it, and people can't even or don't even know how much they're paying to get what it is that they're getting without having the light. So is it our money that is helping? That is for those who are able like you. Is it that it's because you're able to pay that you're getting the light now, or that they did something to improve the infrastructure of the light? And what was really done? If all this while they just hoarded the light to enable us to drive demand, so that anything that they give us will be paid, then that criminality must be punished as well. Because believe me, light, right, is a right. Should be a right.
It's a privilege. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's a right. It's a right. Where did they get it from? The resources is like oil and gas. The resources are already there. What we've done is to go in, put the technology in place and to tap it into. Why did we begin with having water board, NEPA, and all these people as public service people that were not set up to make profit? That's what they learned in government. That they are there to serve the public and they're not the NTA, NEPA, all this water board and co. They were there to serve. But for those who are able to afford the power and they're enjoying it, kudos to them, no doubt about it. But we do not just take a matter on the surface and say because people in Lagos and people in Katina having light now, therefore everybody now is like, it's not true.
All right, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper right about now. And the big story here, we have only 7 of 20 subsidiaries viable as NNPCL battles a 22 trillion naira debt.
Okay, moving on, anxiety as Tinubu's government braces for second mass protest in 2 months. Details are on page 9.
All right, and we have on the bottom strip here, 96% of SMEs are struggling under inflation control policies, the Economist warn.
Okay, federal government okays 350 billion naira to tackle flooding. Details are on page 6 on that particular story.
And also, we have Obaseki Shaibu because of alleged plot to invade government house.
Okay, PDP crisis deepens as the central caucus insists on replacing the amalgam. Details are still on page 9.
All right, so So, any questions from there?
Okay, let's look at the PDP crisis deepens as the caucus insists on replacing the Magum. How far can PDP go with this recent development?
No, it's not how far can PDP. Well, maybe half, but how far the faction demanding the Magum's outside can go. If I think they are still at this level because largely elections are still fairly far away. But I do know that by 2020, is it 5 or 6? Early 2026,
Yeah.
they won't be here.
What will be here?
No, they would have cut them. They would have cut their losses by then.
Okay.
They would have said, Tamako and Co. Eat your party. Those who will go. Those who will stay. So you either stay in Egypt or head for the promised land. It's one of the two.
Okay, where is the promised land? If
Well, who knows? I mean, those who live will tell us that I'm living for the promised land. That's what I mean. I'm not a partisan and I'm not a party man, but I can tell you for free that this crisis is only lingering so far because it still has some oxygen to breathe. It will not always be like this. I think a portion of maybe the NNPP, Labour Party to an extent, or let's even say P2B, Atiku, and Kwankwaso might come together, or it will just be the Atiku and P2B
again.
But they're pushing for the independent candidacy, and it's been at the National Assembly. Do we see that seeing the light of day? That's the independent candidate.
I want independent candidates to see light of day. To see the light of day. But these lawmakers and our National Assembly are notorious. We've seen these things happen. It may just be there for the optics of it, and in the end, nothing will come out of it. See, we forget. We think that when they pass a law, then the president will assent to it. There is a portion of the constitution that says that if Mr. President refuses to assent to the law, what should happen? The bill goes back to the National Assembly, and that they should pass that bill by voice vote if they so want. So technically speaking, our democracy is not traveling at the speed of the president's vision. Our democracy should be traveling at the will and determination of the National Assembly, not Mr. President, because they don't need to pass any law. They don't. If they can pass a law and send it to Oga assent, and after I think about 2-3 weeks or so, or after the time frame, he refuses to assent, it comes back to them, and they can vote and pass it into law. It's in the constitution.
It's very interesting that you made this mention, but of course, this is different dynamics, especially with APC on the throne right about now. The APC chairman said they were going to repeat the same template they did in Edo for Ondo and Anambra State, or equally. So, what do you see of the APC? Are we going to experience? Permit me to use that word. It could sound a little bit out of this, but do we see a bad form of the APC like it was during the PDP?
Albert Einstein said that you cannot solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created the problem. You must think a level higher than where you were when the problem was created. The APC is maybe PDP 2.0, PDP 3.0, but they are far. The PDP has had its own flaws and weaknesses, no doubt about it. I mean, it was at the point they became very heady, very unhidden, very wayward, actually. But like somebody said one time, the PDP is a reckless party, but the APC is a consciously reckless party. They are consciously. I mean, that's what somebody puts it. They are consciously reckless. It's a party that first does what it will do, then they not think of how they can pass it through the law. They don't first think of the law and how to get around it. They first do what they will do. They'll come and whether there's any place in the right where they can pass. It's a very funny thing. In Edo, there was daylight robbery. I mean, we could see it. Yaga Africa, that at the point was becoming something of just that it isn't really an activist group. If you know Yaga Africa, they are not exactly an activist.
No, they're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
But I saw the report they wrote about the Edo election. They couldn't manage what's about it. The thing is that the difference between Nigeria because we are arguably the one country that is so big on the American system, and I don't want to come out America. All about the world, Parliament is the soul of democracy. Only in America today elect to have a president and Congress. The way we to have a president and national assembly. What America, there's a sense in which America has evolved through its judiciary. Landmark judgments. That's America has largely evolved. Democracy, any democracy that stands on a weak judiciary is like fish that appears to be good, but has a very rotten head. It can't go too far. So, in Nigeria's own case, if even our institutions were strong and could stand on their own, on their feet, and make determinations, let the parties misbehave, let the politics be so, let everything go bad. For as long as the court will speak. What made Oshoman? It wasn't because the court pushed up Professor Simon Sumbo. What made the Arabeshola governor of Shudo? Was it not because the court pushed up Lagoso Minola? What made the even Amechi governor of River State? Because the court pushed up Celeste Omega. If you would allow the courts to do their work without fear or favor, as we had it in the 80s, which arguably is now looked at as a golden age of Nigerian judiciary, as when you had likes of Soputa, Karde, Shanko, when learned men, learned independent-minded luminaries sat in those seats, we are better for it. But today, where we are now, somebody said that we want to do self-election, you are fighting against INEC, police, and the courts. How would you know?
All right, just before we call it a wrap on this particular segment, for Vanguard newspaper, it's very important that we take this knowing that we're heading for something tomorrow. October 1, to Vanguard, that is, the big story, police deploy in states as organizers insist on protest. Cyril Abako, let's just talk on this just before we wind up. A situation where tomorrow is supposed to be a celebratory day for independence. The same tomorrow is going to be a day of protest. What is the pressure on the Nigerian police and other security architecture? Do you think they can monster their responsibility come tomorrow?
But I hope that we can all see how badly our country is unraveling. It's the unlikeliest of scenarios that on October 1, how many of us remember any day, any problem in our childhood when we protested on it was always we are going to celebrate.
Exactly.
I was going
You watch the television and nostalgia, the everything.
All
that was Nigeria of yore. But maybe for a few public and well-funded private schools that are able to organize spectacles,
that might even go because of the protest. So some of them might refuse going.
I think some are even holding their own events today.
Yeah.
Some schools they have their last week.
Yeah.
This is not the country that we grew up in. It is not clearly, and that we are not choosing to hold protests symbolically on that same day. But again, we have a government that probably doesn't care as much as we want to think that they do all that they should. So what do we do? The police will now have to leave parade grounds and go to protest grounds
because it's important.
And even to the point now that the National Association of University Students are telling the students not to come out to protest, and they are the leaders of tomorrow. Let me use that word in quotes.
No, so again, for me personally, right? During the August protest, I said protest was the right. Anybody wants to exercise it. If you don't exercise, don't be coerced to exercise it. So it may not be the right thing to say that. Some people may feel why speak this way, but the fact is, protest is protest. If you want to, if you don't want to, right? But I recall that before NSAS took place, this man, Naira Mali, came out and said no more protest. After he had gone to, he had got an Instagram live with the police and then he said no more protest. Do you see what happened? The cataclysm. You cannot make laws for 100%. You cannot make laws for 100%. The more you give them advice, spiritual counsel, the more you tell them, use sweet words and read poetry to them. The first one they sit up from a pocket is the one they take. So NANS, what has NANS been doing all these years? Where was NANS when students at the University of Ibadan were crowdfunding themselves
to
get school fees? So What is NAS? I can tell you that with where things are in this country, people come out tomorrow. Believe me. But our please make it peaceful.
Exactly.
But if, again, government should listen. My concern, the president addressed the nation in August, but didn't address the issues. And things are worse today. How much were we buying fuel during the August protest? How much are we buying fuel now?
And still not
Just imagine.
actually. There's queues.
In another 2-3 months, things have worsened. Like things have terribly worsened.
Thank you, Cyril.
So very, very unfortunate. That's all we have actually for this segment. Love to say thank you to Cyril Abako.
Thank you, Cyril
for just being part of our show today. And we'll be going to our main conversation in a jiffy, where of course we would have joining us virtually John Akirile, and also we equally would have Barrister Tunji Abdul Hamid. Of course, we'll let Cyril leave us. Thank you so very much once more.
Thank you, Cyril.
All right, yeah.
And when we return, Nigeria turns 64 in less than a day, but not many Nigerians are looking forward to the milestone with joy. Now, why is that? Stay with us in a moment.